What if the very people sworn to find her are the ones burying her? For 70 agonizing days, the world has been scouring the scorching Arizona desert for 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie, mother of NBC's Savannah Guthrie. 70 days of tears, 70 days of silence, 70 days of lies. Tonight, that silence ends. A newly intercepted ransom demand, a masked figure caught on doorbell footage carrying a loaded Walmart hiker pack, and a police cover-up so deep, so deliberate, so catastrophically corrupt that it has triggered a full-scale mutiny inside the Pima County Sheriff's own department. They stood in front of cameras, they looked this grieving family in the eyes, and they told the world that a confused elderly woman simply wandered off into the desert. They lied. What you are about to hear is the suppressed evidence, the intercepted communications, the leaked internal emails, the forensic proof that shatters this investigation wide open. Do not look away. The Catalina foothills of Arizona are supposed to be untouchable, a landscape of towering saguaro cacti and multi-million-dollar estates, a sanctuary where wealth buys silence, privacy, and safety. The kind of neighborhood where nothing bad is supposed to happen. But on the night of January 31st, that silence was weaponized. Nancy Guthrie was not just another resident of those quiet foothills. She was the deeply loved mother of one of America's most recognizable faces, a woman of strict daily routine, a woman whose life was anchored medically and digitally by the steady rhythm of an implanted pacemaker. At exactly 1:47 a.m., that rhythm was interrupted. Her Nest cameras were severed, not by a power failure, not by a technical glitch, but deliberately, precisely, and without hesitation. The property was plunged into an artificial darkness that lasted 41 minutes. No footage, no witnesses, no trail. At 2:28 a.m., her pacemaker synced to the network for the last time. After that, only silence. For weeks, Savannah Guthrie moved between the bright lights of the Today Show set and the brutal, unforgiving heat of the Arizona Canyon search zones, publicly begging for answers while privately watching the investigation deteriorate around her. The narrative the Pima County Sheriff's Department fed to the media has been crumbling for weeks. This was never a tragic accident. This was never a confused woman wandering into the desert. This was a calculated surgical strike by a predator who knew exactly what they were doing and exactly who was supposed to stop them. The ransom. First twist. The panic became undeniable the moment ransom communications surfaced from the darkest corners of the internet. This was not a chaotic, desperate demand from a frightened criminal. This was psychological warfare, structured, encrypted, and deliberately designed to humiliate law enforcement. In early April, federal authorities intercepted a series of Bitcoin ransom notes traced through layered servers across Eastern Europe and South America. The initial demand was strangely specific: $70,000 in cryptocurrency, not the $1 million the Guthrie family had already publicly guaranteed. Not a clean cash demand. $70,000 in untraceable digital currency, a number so oddly precise it immediately told investigators one thing: this person was not after the money. They were taunting the FBI. But then the demands shifted, and what came next stopped the investigation cold. The kidnappers stopped negotiating for a living hostage. Instead, they demanded half a Bitcoin, roughly $30,000, simply for the GPS coordinates to Nancy's remains. Read that again. Not her location, not her release, her remains. The leverage of a living victim evaporated in a single message. Investigators faced the possibility they had been dreading since night one, that Nancy Guthrie's 84-year-old heart, deprived of daily medication, subjected to the violent physical trauma of a midnight abduction, may have given out. And the visual evidence made everything worse. Recovered from a neighboring property's doorbell camera, heavily degraded, partially corrupted, was footage of a figure moving toward the Guthrie residence in the early morning darkness, dressed in dark clothing, moving with deliberate, unhurried calm, and carrying a standard Ozark trail pack from Walmart. FBI forensic profilers analyzed the footage frame by frame: the tension in the straps, the forward lean of the figure's posture, the distribution of weight across the bag. That pack was not carrying supplies for a hike, was carrying professional restraints, digital bypass equipment, and medical suppression tools. Every detail of this approach was planned. Every second of that 41-minute window was calculated. This was not a predator acting on impulse. This was an operator executing a mission. Now here is where negligence becomes something far more sinister. Investigative journalist Brian Enton sat down with an anonymous law enforcement whistleblower from inside the Pima County Sheriff's Department. What was disclosed in that conversation has sent genuine shockwaves through federal law enforcement circles. On the first day of Nancy Guthrie's disappearance, the most critical 24 to 48 hours, of any kidnapping investigation, the sheriff's department assigned a supervisor with no prior experience leading a major abduction or homicide case. Not limited experience, no experience. A high-profile, multi-jurisdictional kidnapping of a nationally known public figure's elderly mother, and they handed the lead to someone who had never run an investigation of this magnitude before in their career. Because of that decision, the Guthrie home was never processed as a crime scene. It was processed as a search and rescue. First responders moved through the property without forensic protocol, without protective equipment, without the systematic preservation that a contaminated crime scene demands. They were looking for a lost grandmother, and in doing so, they walked directly over, through, and across the only microscopic evidence that could have identified the perpetrator within the first 48 hours. DNA compromised, trace fibers displaced, the predator's footprint, physical and forensic, erased by the very people sent to find it. And while law enforcement searched the surrounding desert with flashlights, the kidnapper was already crossing into Sonora, Mexico in a dark-colored SUV. Leaked internal emails now confirm that the department's senior leadership was aware of these failures within days and made a deliberate decision to conceal them from the Guthrie family and from federal authorities. This was not an oversight. This was a coordinated institutional decision to protect careers over a missing woman's life. The cover-up has names, it has email timestamps, and it is now in the hands of the FBI. The public response was not outrage, it was eruption. Within hours of the whistleblower's account reaching social media, #JusticeForNancy and #ArrestNanos locked the top trending positions across every major platform simultaneously. High-profile journalists, legal analysts, and public figures began publicly calling for Sheriff Chris Nanos to face immediate federal investigation for obstruction of justice and criminal negligence. But the most devastating reaction did not come from the public. It came from inside the department itself. In an unprecedented move that left reporters visibly stunned, the deputies' union representing the Pima County Sheriff's Department formally voted no confidence in their own sheriff. Nearly 300 sworn officers, veterans who had served under multiple administrations, collectively and publicly declared that the investigation had been mishandled from its very first hour. They did not whisper it, they voted on it. The search and rescue operation was officially reclassified. What had been treated as a missing persons case was formally acknowledged as what investigators had known it was from the beginning, a homicide crime scene. Savannah Guthrie's return to the Today Show desk was difficult to watch. Her composure held, barely. But behind her eyes was the specific, hollow exhaustion of someone who has not slept properly in weeks, who is performing professionalism while processing private devastation. Every appearance she makes triggers a fresh wave of public fury directed at the authorities who failed her family. The division online is raw. The anger is not performative. An entire community that paid millions for the promise of safety is now installing reinforced surveillance systems and iron gate locks because a predator capable of bypassing elite digital security walked through their neighborhood and disappeared. And then, just as the department appeared to be collapsing entirely under the weight of its own failures, the FBI found something. Hidden on the surface of a propped-open rear door inside the Guthrie home, a microscopic biological trace, a mixed-dye DNA sample containing genetic material that does not belong to any member of the Guthrie family. In all their precision, in all their clinical rehearsed execution, the predator slipped and left behind a ghost of themselves on a doorframe. Forensic genealogists are currently running that sample through deconvolution analysis, the same cutting-edge process used to identify the Golden State Killer decades after his crimes. They are digitally separating the family's known genetic material from the unknown contributor, strand by strand, until a profile emerges. A real name, a real face, a real address, and here is what makes this moment truly terrifying. The kidnapper is not in a bunker. They are not off the grid. They have an internet connection. They are watching the coverage. They have watched Savannah cry on national television. They have read the headlines. They know the FBI recovered something from that door. If they realize the match is hours away, what do they do? Do they release the coordinates? Do they surface and negotiate? Or do they disappear permanently into cartel-controlled territory in Mexico, taking every answer with them? The supercomputers are running, the clock is counting down, and somewhere out there, a heart monitor is either still beeping or it has already gone flat. The truth is coming, and when it arrives, it will not spare anyone. This investigation is moving by the hour. The DNA match could break at any moment. The question I want you to answer right now in the comments is this: was this a deliberate institutional pose, cover-up to protect careers, or was this kidnapper simply a phantom that no department could have caught in time? Drop your theory below. I am reading every single response. If you want to be the first person notified the moment that suspect name drops, smash the like button, subscribe, and turn on every notification right now. We are tracking this case around the clock, and you will not want to be the last to know. Stay alert, stay informed, and remember, the truth always leaves something behind.